My next guest is the founder of the Langer Mindfulness Institute, an organization that consults with companies to redesign the workplace by fostering what they call mindful leadership. Dr. Ellen Langer is a globally recognized social psychologist, the first female professor to gain tenure in the psychology department at Harvard University. I'm intimidated. This is Tonight. I'm Bruce Whitfield, and tonight we chat with Dr. Langer about mindfulness and how it can help reduce stress and create a more intuitive workplace. Does it sound like it belongs in the clouds, or does it belong in the office? Educate me, please.
Yes,
Ellen,
I'd love
what
to.
is mindfulness in the workplace? I'm used to throwing things. That's probably not mindful.
It depends on how you throw them.
With feeling.
With feeling, then it's mindful. No, it's a concept that is so simple with consequences that are so extraordinary, it's almost hard to believe. And all of the work and the things I'll be talking about to you today, Bruce, are derived from 40 years of research. So it's not up in the clouds.
Okay, good.
Or maybe in the clouds,
I'll
but
cross that one off.
It's
okay.
also very down to earth. Basically, if you actively notice things, what you come to see is that the things you thought you knew, you don't know at all, because everything is always changing. Everything looks different from different perspectives. This very simple concept of noticing new things puts you in the present, makes you sensitive to context, is literally, this is interesting, literally and figuratively enlivening. Not only do you feel better, but we have a lot of data showing that you actually live longer by this very simple thing of noticing. Now, most people think they notice all the time. And the problem is, when you're not there to know you're not there. And 40 years of research makes me reasonably confident in saying most of us are mindless almost all of the time.
Well, present company excluded, of course.
Of course.
Give me a sense, in a practical
Broadly
example.
speaking, present company.
Give me a sense of how this mindfulness concept would work in the workplace. You have a chief executive who's popular, who's well connected, who is on top of the financials, who is a charming presenter at the results presentation. He's a killer with the shareholders.
That's fine, but how is he treating his employees? So I had done
He pays them, gives them share options, and they get a bonus every year, and they got a job.
Matter.
They should be grateful.
No, that doesn't matter. What matters is what happens on a daily basis. And so I had done this consulting many years ago to a very big power company. And they had what they called a zero accident policy. Now, all that's going to do is maximize the amount of lying. Okay, so even if people got their bonuses, the day-to-day relationships are not as they could be. When people are given information to how to learn whatever the particular business is, it's the same as when you're in school, that the information you're given is absolute. This is how you do it. Yeah. And what happens is that kills creativity and innovation. When I start many of these talks, I'll just ask people a simple question: how much is 1 and 1?
The accountants will give you answers that may vary.
No, they will look at me the same way you, and perhaps your audience is looking at me like, what is she talking about? Because people have learned.
Answer is 2.
Yes, but it's not always 2.
Oh, no.
1 and 1 is 2 if you're using a base 10 number system. You use a base 2 number system, 1 and 1 is written as 10. Easier to understand if you take 1 wad of chewing gum and you add it to 1 wad of chewing gum. 1 plus 1 is 1.
Yes.
And the point is that virtually all of our facts are not true in some circumstances. But because we think we know, we don't pay any attention. And by not paying attention, work becomes boring, stressful, accidents occur, people get burned out, and all sorts of other less than positive things.
Who is great at mindfulness? Because it's not only about the workplace. You can have political leaders who are mindful.
Sure. No, I'm not going to name names, but I think that young children, right before they go to school.
Just before they get educated and destroyed.
Exactly, because education teaches them here are the right answers. And the right answers then set them up for the wrong answers. So I was on this horse event many years ago. And this person asked me, can I watch his horse because he's going to go get his horse a hot dog? I'm Harvard, Yale all the way through. I laughed to myself, but still smiling politely to him. Doesn't he know horses are herbivorous? They don't eat meat. He comes back with the hot dog, the horse ate it. And it was at that moment that I realized everything I knew was wrong. You know, that what happens is science produces research that are probabilities.
Yes.
That much of the time, if you do the same thing, which you can never do exactly the same thing, this is what is likely to result. That's translated into absolute facts. Horses don't eat meat.
No.
And as a result, we expect the world to be other than it is. As soon as you think you know, you lose interest. And that's when accidents start to happen, and also your life becomes less exciting.
So how then do we apply this concept, this simple concept you call it, of mindfulness? Because it requires a completely different way of thinking.
Yes,
it requires a challenging mindset that
Well,
most of us have become too lazy to apply.
No, it's easy. That's the beauty of it all, that when you're in leisure, when you're having fun, you're being mindful. It's all of the mistakes we make in the workplace by making it stressful, by not allowing people mistakes, by having a sense that these people are better than these people. Almost all of the policies in place kill initiative, innovation, and promote mindlessness. To remove those things would be a pleasure for everyone. And if you were going on a vacation, so instead of me coming to South Africa, you were going to visit me in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in the States.
Lovely.
Beautiful.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah,
I'll see you next week.
I look forward to it. But that because you've never been there, probably, that you're expecting to see all sorts of new things. And so you're open to all of it, and it ends up exciting. Well, every day, everything you're experiencing is different.
Absolutely.
But our feeling that we know is what is dulling our lives.
Can I name a name?
Sure.
I'm going to suggest to you that a guy called Thomas Edison was mindful.
Possibly.
Possibly.
I would say
We never meet him. We never met him. But here's a guy who had something like 10,000 goes at creating an incandescent light bulb.
Right. And didn't give up.
And didn't give up, and
Right.
kind of figured out he didn't know, until the point he did know, and then he knew 9,999 ways of not doing it.
Because what
and
happens,
they've evolved ever since then.
Yes, because what happens is that when you try to do something and you fail, too many people take it as a personal failure, in which case it's hard to go on. But if you say to yourself, that's not the way, then it's easier to look for the next way. Also recognizing, when I was young, and I would write all of these reports, it was the notion of publish or perish.
Yes.
Then at some point I realized, as soon as I finish this manuscript, I'm just going to have to start another one. And so I was less concerned about racing through it to count, and so that quantity gave way to perhaps greater quality. But back to mindfulness in business, there are several studies that we've done that I think would be relevant to...
But that's the point, isn't it? And so much of mindfulness is accepting the concept of failure.
No, it's not accepting it as failure, it's recognizing that a failure
It didn't work.
No, but a failure is a temporary consequence on the road to success, or the failure itself can be recast. So, for example, there was this company that spent lots of time and money trying to create a glue. And you can imagine how stressed the CEO was when the glue failed to adhere. Terrible failure. However, what 3M did instead was to take the glue that failed to adhere, made it a Post-it note, the very success of which depends on its failure to adhere long term.
Yes.
So was it a success or a failure? It was a failed glue, it was a successful Post-it note. And that's the point, is when we don't get our ego too involved in what we're doing and we say, okay, to what positive use can I put this thing that I've created?
Is the ego the biggest enemy of mindfulness?
I think it's other people's egos that are the problem for most people in business. It's the...
But surely it starts with me.
Yes, but what starts with you is determined in part by what other people tell you and your fear of displeasing them, your fear of failure. So it's very hard, and so the people like Thomas Edison, Robert Fulton, as the story goes, and many others who succeed in the face of these failures are not stopped by worry about what other people are going to think. But that's very hard in this world.
But it's 200 years, 150 years later, the corporate world is less forgiving. If Thomas Edison worked for General Electric today, he might not find himself employed after 5 failures to produce the incandescent light bulb.
Well, what I'm suggesting he might have done is to take the failure itself, recast it, so in some other context it's actually a success. And then they would have applauded him.
How do we get companies, businesses to be more mindful? Does it go from the top down? Does it, is it a culture issue through organizations?
There are several ways. One certainly is top down, where you get the CEOs to help change the culture, and we can help people do that. It's not very difficult. But I don't think people at, we'll say, the bottom need to feel victimized, that one can be mindful in a very mindless-inducing context. You know, to recognize that 1 in 1, yes, it can be 2. You're all acting as if it's 2, but I know that it depends on context. So I can be a happy clam. Where did that come from?
I have no idea where it came from. But
do you have that expression here?
No, we don't.
Oh, okay. In the States, people talk about happy
Google
as a clam.
As happy as a clam, as long as it's not in chowder.
I think it's because if you look at the clam, the smile, right?
As long as it's not in chowder, the clam will be very happy. Fascinating insight into the world of mindfulness. Dr. Ellen Langer, who's a social psychologist at Harvard University, she's also an author, broadening our minds a little bit here on Tonight with Bruce Whitfield. Thank you for watching. There'll be more tonight tomorrow. Till then, bye-bye.